Kids learn about money from their parents. They know whether you tend to save up for fun purchases or pull out the credit card when temptation strikes. Since they're learning from you, talk to your kids about using their money wisely. Start by admitting your own mistakes, talking about your family budget, and discussing the importance of sharing some of your money with causes that are important to you. There are gentle ways to help them become wise stewards of their own money. To learn more, go to stcumoney.org.
Spokane listens when business talks. Welcome to Business Talks, the region's only local business radio talk show with your host, Ryan McNeese. Business Talks is brought to you by STCU. Now, let's get down to business with Business Talks.
Welcome to Business Talks. I'm Ryan McNeese, and in the studio today is Ann Mitchell from MAM. And tell us what MAM even stands for. I know, but our listeners might not know.
Mitchell Actors Models.
Which is exciting.
Mm-hmm.
We are really excited to have you in the studio today. It's such an interesting topic, and you've had a lot of success in what you're doing. So tell us about how you started this business.
It basically started 8 years ago. I got a phone call from someone that said, "Hey, aren't you friends with so-and-so? And do you happen to have their phone number?" And I said,
honestly
yes.
seems like the start of most networking conversations, right? Yeah.
Yes. And they sent me a check a couple weeks later.
As a thank you, basically.
Uh-huh.
And you thought, wait a minute, if I connect the dots here, I could maybe do this for a living.
Well, they went a little bit further. The friend who gave me the initial phone call actually put my name down on a list of people to call to look for talent. So my phone just kept ringing, and
Isn't
it hasn't
that interesting?
stopped.
But, you know, I think that's fascinating to me because I think a lot of different industries, whether you're an accountant, an attorney, in the show business world, I think folks gravitate to who can just get the job done. It really doesn't matter what the official title is. And I think that's what you're explaining, that people started calling you because you could connect the dots and put them in touch with the right people for the right production. So you obviously really enjoy what you do, I think. That really, I think, shows.
I do. It's a lot of fun.
Give us a little bit of background on how it works day to day. I mean, again, you're talking actors, models, different genres of talent, voiceovers as well. Tell us how these people find you, how you do connect them with maybe the specific talents that they have.
Well, we have built a network of production companies and marketing companies, ad agencies that we work with, and then those that we're always kind of hunting and trying to add to that group. And they just contact us on a daily basis and say, hey, so we're working on a commercial or we're working on a print campaign, and we're looking for talent that meet these specifics.
Right,
so,
maybe within these bookends. Do you have
we're
somebody that
sort of a
fits?
matchmaker
Okay.
to line up the talent base with those people. There's never enough time, so what we do is we keep sort of what's called a roster. So it's a group of talent who we feel are appropriate for the projects that we're currently working on, and try to match them up and line them up with what the client needs.
How many folks do you think you currently represent or work with?
We have 17 currently on the roster.
That's a lot. That's a lot. And I know I actually had an opportunity, has it been a couple years? You spoke at the Spokane Valley Chamber, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And did a great job, by the way. But I think you were just coming off really the early successes of Z Nation, I believe. Tell us about that. I mean, I think anybody and everybody knows about Z Nation.
Yeah, we just wrapped season 3 this fall, and it's been nice, steady work for the community of Spokane. And a lot of Seattle talent that have come over as well, working on what we feel primarily are the day player roles. So those people who die right away.
Yeah, that's one way to look at it, I guess. So a lot of local talent in that show. Are they primarily filming in Spokane still, or have they moved around the country a bit in terms of sets?
They've moved throughout the state, and different regions of the state sort of take the place of different places in the country.
Okay. And so technically, how does, even with the example of Z Nation, how did that work in terms of, is that one of the production companies that you were already in contact with, or did they reach out to you?
It was a production company. It's actually North by Northwest who we worked through
Rich
on
Carolina.
that. And so we had already been working with them pretty much from the very beginning, as they were pretty much our first phone call.
Okay.
So
Well, and they've done some great.
We've done a lot of feature film work with them.
It's been a while, but one that comes to mind to me is the basket that they did in the Masonic Temple. I was actually in there for a recent event, and it brought me back to thinking they did that, I think, in the late 90s or so.
Yeah, we've done a lot of projects with them, with Ray Liotta and Andy Garcia and some fun people that they've brought through to Spokane.
Well, and, I think a piece of the conversation when you spoke with the Valley Chamber is, as you just indicated, some of these big names that are coming through Spokane, that's only good for the economics of Spokane. Can you tell us a little bit about maybe what you see in terms of bringing productions and what to Spokane and what that does for the economy here?
Well, when we're bringing in productions and you're bringing in crew and you're bringing in actors, you're then working with hotels, you're working with craft services, so where these people have to eat. They become part of our community, and their dollars get spent within our community. And so that's great for everyone all the way around. Down even to the amateur actor, sort of semi-pro actor who does maybe a day or two. It gives them an influx of income that they spend here in our local communities.
And even a sense of engagement, I think, when you talk about, like you said, kind of the amateur, if you will, or somebody that's not doing it all the time, but an engagement in this area and in your industry specifically. But also, I think, I know local sites like Visit Spokane and obviously the local chambers, it really is some significant talking points for those organizations to say, hey, look, Z Nation is going to be in town filming in the next 3 months. Or I remember maybe a couple summers ago in Macklemore was filming.
That was a lot of fun.
Maybe you guys did some casting for that as well. But I think the vibe in our community that, hey, people are taking Spokane seriously and is a good place for location shoots. I think it's good for the overall vibe of our economy.
And we have some great businesses that have sort of piggybacked on that too, offering zombie donuts and fun things that go with when we have cast and crew filming in their neighborhoods. Then they'll come up with specials that sort of match
that
what's
go with
happening.
the theme. So when, for instance, the Macklemore video is filmed here, how does that type of production come about? Was that a different type of production company that reaches out? Or?
That was actually the same production company.
Okay.
And we filmed that in 6 days. Well, 6 days that we were involved in. We got the call about a week earlier, didn't know what it was for.
Holy cow.
And so we started casting, which isn't unusual, but you start casting for a project, we start submitting talent, and we can't tell them what it is. All we can tell them is that it's worth their time.
Yeah, and that they fit potentially the role.
Sometimes we know what it is, but we still can't tell.
Right. That's part of the...
You need the actors who will show up on pure faith that, okay, this is going to be worth my time.
Yeah.
Really? Because it says it's old man number 2.
Are you sure? Anne, are you sure I'm right for this role? But I guess that makes sense. Is that confidentiality piece more geared towards the production company doesn't want to let the cat out of the bag, so to speak, that what they're looking to do, and maybe because it won't even come out for the next 6 months to a year, maybe.
Yeah, a lot of times that's what it is. So we'll work on a project. Well, Twin Peaks is a project that we worked on, and we haven't been able to talk about that until I think it was 9 months after filming until they actually started some press releases and we could actually talk about it.
And quite frankly, that's a long time. I mean, people have moved on to many other projects, other endeavors, and that's such a significant part of their lives. If they probably are part of that production, that's tough to keep under wraps.
Yeah, we had a couple actors here from Spokane who had some major bits in it. And they can't talk about what they did yet because it's not out. But until they could have their name released, they couldn't say anything.
So is that going to be a feature-length film or like the Twin Peaks?
It's just a little, it's just a little sort of addition and bonus to the series we already know. Okay,
that's really interesting. In terms of maybe not the demographics, but the age range of the 600 plus folks that you represent, do you see more younger talent, mid-range? What do you see in our community?
Our general applicant is younger, but what we need the most are 30-somethings and up.
Really?
Primarily, we use a lot of 30, 40-somethings because they are the people who actually purchase the product. And then on top of that, we're using baby boomer talent as well.
And when you say, that was interesting, you said that purchase the product, you mean that...
When we're working with commercials, they're the people who are buying. I always say we're selling soap.
Yeah,
and they're the people buying
or maybe
laundry
the pickup
soap
truck
or the pickup truck or
Wendell Ford or something, that you need a 35-year-old in that role or what have you. Interesting.
A 12-year-old girl's not going to buy that pickup
Probably
truck.
not. Probably not. Although she'd probably do a good job in that role.
Yes.
Might not be the target market. That's interesting. I have to say I probably wouldn't have jumped to think that necessarily was the respective pools that you're looking for.
And that's usually the age that you have actors who've sort of given up. So it's a harder group. You still have a lot of people really hot and heavy and working on acting in their 20s. But by the time they're 30s or 40s, sometimes their priorities have shifted. And that's when we need them the most for commercial products.
I think you make a good point there, though. You had somebody that really was, hey, I'm going to give this a go, whether it be locally or in L.A. or New York in their 20s, and maybe has come back to Spokane thinking, hey, this is a great place to raise a family. But then all of a sudden, someone like yourself, you guys make the connection that hey, you really do fit a target market, whether it be commercials or otherwise, and maybe have a second go at what they were looking to do in the first place.
And we have some great stories of people who have lived in the Los Angeles market and the New York market and come home to Spokane and are now working more than they ever did. Which is really fun.
And we all love those success stories. Let's actually take a short break and then come right back with Ann Mitchell from MAM and talk some more about those success stories. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
You're listening to SpokaneTalksOnline.com, Spokane and North Idaho's business and community talk station.
In study after study, money is often cited as one of the top conflict points in a marriage. Finances can be an emotional topic for couples, especially when money is tight. So it pays to get in the habit of discussing it on a regular basis, even if you keep separate finances. At stcumoney.org, find 6 tips for making the conversation easier. If you need a sign, banner, or business cards for your business, who do you call? Hi, this is Kent Adams.
And Tom MacArthur from Business Talks. Kent and I call Instant Sign Factory for our signs, banners, business cards, and more.
Dave at Instant Sign Factory is our go-to guy for printing, and he always does excellent work for us.
Check them out online. They've got an all-new website, InstantSignFactory.com.
Tell them Kent and Tom from Business Talks sent you. Instant Sign Factory.
What's that, a newspaper? I didn't think people still read newspapers.
Well, the Spokesman Review sure has a lot of readers.
Yeah?
Here, I'll show you. Let's play a little game.
Okay.
We're going on a cruise. Close your eyes and imagine a big cruise ship full of passengers out on the high seas.
Big boat, high seas. I do love a cruise. How many people do you think are on the boat?
The average cruise ship carries about 3,000 passengers.
Okay, that's a lot of life vests, sure.
Now imagine 100 cruise ships. 300,000 people.
Yeah, that's a lot of people, but what does it all mean?
That's how many people read the Spokesman Review every week.
Really?
Yeah. On average, 300,000 people read the Spokesman Review in print or online each week. If they all went on a cruise, they'd fill 100 cruise ships.
300,000 readers a week? That's amazing. I really had no idea.
Most people don't. That's why we're running this ad. In print and online, the Spokesman Review delivers customers for your business.
Welcome back. This is Business Talks, and we're here in the studio with Ann Mitchell of MAM Talent Agency. And right before the break, we were chatting about success stories. And, you know, I really think that is the theme that we try to chat about week in and week out in Business Talks. No matter the genre of business or the type of industry, is these exciting stories about what people can do when they follow their passions. You're clearly a story that we're talking about, where you got into this business because you loved it and you're passionate about it. And I think it's yet again an example of when you put your time into something like this and you're spending every day doing something that you like. That's not to say it's not hard work, right?
It's hard work. It's unusual work.
It's unusual work, and I would think that you probably get the people probably think, oh, what a glamorous business you're in. And I'm guessing, you can tell us, but I'm guessing that's not day in and day out the case.
No, because it's a lot of herding cats on a really obnoxious turnaround. We've had spots that we filled that we've literally had hours.
Oh my gosh.
If we have a day, I'm good.
Yeah.
A day I can
You're like,
comfortably
there's no
do.
sweat.
Yeah.
Well, let's talk about a couple of those success stories, whether it be here locally or folks that have come from LA or New York or other areas in the country. Give us a few examples of what you've seen.
Well, we've had just some fun stories. I know in the very beginning, we had an actor who had moved here from Los Angeles. He had worked on all the big stuff. Rick Rivera, he coaches here locally. So we'd done like Nash Bridges and General Hospital.
Right.
And some fun, great credits that we were excited to see here in Spokane. And he said that he has had more consistent work since he's been here than he did when he was living in Los Angeles and New York. And so it's been fun. He made that commitment to his family to come to Spokane to raise his family, and thought sort of when I met with him, you could see that kind of, is there going to be a place for me here in this community? And
well,
there
certainly
has been.
that's a testament to you putting him in the right places and finding the roles and opportunities. But that sounds reasonable, though. I mean, I would imagine, had he even been in Spokane before?
Yes, his wife's family's from here.
Was from here. But if his experience, though, was L.A., and obviously folks think entertainment business, you think Los Angeles, you think New York, certainly reasonable to think, are you sure, Ann, if I come up there, you're going to be able to keep me busy? And
it's the number one question I'm asked is people, when they find out what we do, say, and you do that in Spokane?
Yeah.
Really? You're able to do that in Spokane?
Well, and, we're from here, so we have the perspective that we have. We're a city of county and beyond 500,000 plus. It's a large city. I think it gets a misnomer or a lack of people knowing. Once they come here, I think they realize what a flourishing city Spokane really is, and the diverse industries that are here. Do you find yourself as a percentage placing folks in commercials, theater, film, and then I think I mentioned earlier even voiceovers? Where do you think you spend most of your time?
Most of the time gets spent in sort of that commercial business. That's really our bread and butter. We work on feature film projects. We don't get a huge amount of those through the state of Washington, but we do work on them as they come through. We work on a lot of indie film projects, but the bread and butter is commercial. In Spokane, we do, of course, the regional spots that are local that people expect us to do, the fun Northern Quest spots or the Coeur d'Alene Casino spots.
And those are great, by the way.
Yeah, they're
those
fun. But then we also do regional spots for other areas of the country that a lot of people don't realize. We film here in Spokane, and maybe they air in North Carolina or Georgia, or they air in Colorado. So we film a lot of spots like that, and then we do national spots out of Spokane as well.
Why do you think that is?
We have some really hungry ad agencies that have gone aggressively after some great work, and they do really incredible work, and they're getting clients like AT&T and Rubbermaid and Samsung and GoDaddy right here in Spokane.
See, yet again, that's exciting because clearly North Carolina and Raleigh, North Carolina, I mean, Charlotte, major metropolitan areas that are going to have key folks and talent, but they're coming to Spokane to get the job done.
To produce a commercial, yep.
Actually, I think that's exciting. What about theater? Do you see much of the placement in theater?
We do. We work with people for touring companies and for professional theater as well. We, of course, worked with Sophia Ann Caruso. Everybody sort of knows that story. She was Annie here at Spokane Civic Theater, and currently she is performing Lazarus in London as she's grown up the grown up the ladder with her career.
That's fantastic. And you mentioned just a second ago that a large percentage of your work is commercial work. And I think what resonates with me is the analogy, again, to many other industries, that if someone looks at a particular industry, they might think it's glamorous. Obviously, talent agency, film, radio, that type of thing. But when they look, really, no matter what the industry is, a lot of the business comes from, as you, I think, said, bread and butter, corporate, or things that are high volume, right?
Banks, power companies.
Yeah, and there's nothing wrong with that.
State PSAs, those aren't real sexy things to work on, but they're steady work.
And it pays the bills. But really, let's stay within the film industry for a sec. That's really not a lot different than when you hear folks say, they're only doing art house indie movies. Well, if you look closely, oftentimes the folks that are producing some of those independent films, I'm just using an example, but are doing a couple Iron Man type movies here and there. Why? People show up to watch Iron Man.
And it pays your bills.
It pays the bills, but it also does give you the opportunity to maybe do some of these independent films at Sundance or New York Film Festival, et cetera. So I think that's somewhat what you're explaining too, that you're doing a lot of bread and butter commercial work, but it also gives you opportunities to do a lot of other work as well.
Well, and then it allows the talent when we have something like Captain Fantastic with Viggo Mortensen that filmed out of Seattle, and it's gotten great accolades with Sundance and the whole.
Yeah. When was that filmed?
It was filmed about a year ago last summer. So I think we're looking at 2015 in the summer.
Well, and again, that's kind of interesting. You mentioned that a little bit ago, how the time frame of when something's filmed versus when it kind of goes online, so to speak. Okay. Let's jump back a little bit. And you started MAM in 2008. Tell us a little bit about how you got there and what was the impetus for you. I mean, we chat about the fact that you got the phone calls that would start to kind of illustrate that you could do this for a living. But what brought you to that point in 2008? What other industries had you been in?
I was actually working in real estate at the time.
Okay.
And it was a friend of mine who had said, I think we should start a talent agency. And at that time, I had a job. I wasn't actively...
You thought, who is this crazy friend that wants me to do that?
Yeah, I wasn't actively looking for something else. But my husband kept saying, I think you could make a living doing this. And I thought everybody around me was crazy. I was very doubtful on could we do this? And so it's just sort of evolved and grown from there. It's grown to the fact that we now have a staff of 6. We have an office in Seattle as well as here in Spokane, and then we work throughout the entire Northwest market.
Well, I think the marketing guru Seth Godin has said safe is risky, and I think your story yet again is an example that, you could play it safe, but being too safe is risky, meaning you wouldn't be doing what you're doing today and really enjoying it. And another testament, I think, to how well you're doing and the power of what you're doing is there's not many of you doing this here in Spokane, right? I mean,
no, there
who
are
else is
2
doing
agencies
this?
within the Spokane market.
Okay.
So there's MAM and Big Fish, and then my husband has an extras casting, and extras background extras.
Well, and as they say, if it was easy, everybody'd be doing it. So you're obviously, it's not easy, and you're working hard to keep moving what you're doing forward, and that's exciting. What do you think, I always like asking folks, what would you be doing if you weren't doing what you are doing on a daily basis? What are you really passionate about that's not necessarily what your day job is?
Oh gosh, that's hard because I'm a bit of a workaholic, and I like the work enough that it's hard for me to pry myself away from it. And I get bored when I pry myself away from it. It's pretty encompassing. Gosh.
What do you think your hours are a day in terms of? It's hard to say.
When I sit down and I look at them, it'll discourage you.
Not necessarily. It could inspire folks.
And it's inspiring. Pretty much, it's the kind of business you think about from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to sleep at night.
And making some of those connections and putting your people in the right spots.
And making those connections and thinking of where we put somebody. And gosh, sometimes you'll have an actor who'll call you and say, I'm not getting any work right now. If they're not getting any work right now, we know.
Right.
We definitely know because it's something that we think of too. Beyond this, gosh, that sounds so boring that I'm like, I really like
Actually,
building
it's
it.
not. And I think what's interesting, the way you answer that question is predominantly folks that we have on Business Talks, I think they are, in fact, doing what they're doing because they are passionate about it.
Mm-hmm.
And then ultimately it speaks volumes because you can tell when somebody's putting everything they have into what they do. So I actually don't think there's anything wrong with that, but matter of fact, you might have hit on what people are striving for in business, which is they make their hobby and or their passion what they do.
Well, and really my passion and my hobby recently has become more learning about the business end of it. As the company has grown, as we've taken on more employees and more markets and we're opening other offices, just self-teaching and doing courses on, okay, now how do I manage a staff? That's
right.
A new one.
That's an interesting one, though, and I appreciate you actually admitting that because a lot of folks are good at what they do in a particular trade, and then they forget that once you do bring staff on, that's a skill all to itself.
Of itself, and delegating it and giving away pieces of something maybe that I've done for 7 years that I don't want to let go of.
And you do it better, right? Well, certainly appreciate you coming on the show. And can you tell folks how to find you and where to find out more information about what you're doing?
Best resource to find out more information for us is our website, which is wearemam.com.
Okay.
Wearemam.com, or on Facebook, we're listed as Mam Artist, and there's some more information there about what are the current projects we're working on.
That's perfect. And again, really appreciate you coming to the studio. I know you got a tight schedule, but an exciting field that you're in. You're doing exciting things. I hope our listeners will check out your website and see what you're doing. Thanks again, Ann.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Business Talks is produced in Spokane, Washington by SpokaneTalksOnline.com, which is solely responsible for its content. Ask a question, recommend a guest, and hear this program again online anytime at SpokaneTalksOnline.com. Business Talks is brought to you by our friends at STCU. Business Talks wishes you good business and a good day.
If you know what amortization, bridge loans, and HELOCs are, well, you're pretty smart. The financial world is brimming with acronyms and other confusing terms, which can make it harder to make decisions about spending, saving, and borrowing money. If you could use an introduction, go to STCU's financial education blog at stcumoney.org. You'll find out whether you've been amortizing all along, and the experts at the credit union will translate some of the other important financial concepts, too.
Snoring can disrupt marriages and cause serious health problems. Call Sleep Better Northwest first, the experts in dental sleep medicine. Their medically approved, custom-fit oral appliances will have both you and your partner sleeping better and being more productive throughout your day. Don't wait. Snoring and sleep apnea can signal potential strokes or heart attacks. For more information, visit needbettersleepnow.com and download our health guide today. Sleep Better Northwest, the experts in dental sleep medicine.